What's up, first class fans? Welcome back once again. This week in the FCL, I'm the Elk, and I'm joined this week by Ryan, by Keith, and by a special guest. She's super, she's wonderful, she's awesome, and she's great. That's why she's on S.W.A.G. Jen Kempe will be helping us break down all the action and talk about all the news that happened in the FCL this week. We've got a lot to get to, and some great matches coming your way. That's right. Are we all going to go mad, or will the cow fly again? Chatlabash versus Adam Gertler, both looking for their first win in the FCL, and I guarantee one of them is walking out with that coveted W. Let's get into all of that action and break it all down for you, our thirsty firsties, as we talk about everything happening this week in the FCL. And as mentioned, welcome fans. It is great to have you here. Once again, we're breaking down everything that happened in the FCL. We've got Brad. We've got a surprise PLD. We've got some great matches. And I'm joined by my regular co-host. Welcome to you, our very own stats man, our mini Frank Janish, Keith Kilduff.
I mean, I don't know if I really like this mini Frank Janish name, Andrew. I think maybe we could workshop something a little bit better, but for this week, I'll allow it.
No problem, slightly less attractive Frank Janish. And, of course, we have our other co-host. He is doing all the things over on Nerd Culture, the hardest working man on the show, Ryan Permison.
I do what I can, folks. I do what I can. Thanks for having me. This will be a great show. Keith, I think you may have woken up on the wrong side of the bed, but don't worry. We got plenty of matches and other action to talk about to help you get giddy as a schoolboy. So let's see what happens.
And no Chris Barnes right now. He is the real hardest working man behind the show. Not going to be joining us on this week's show, but we've got S.W.A.G's Jen Kempe joining us on the show. Jen, welcome to This Week in the FCL.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm really excited to be here and talk some FCL. Woo.
We all love talking FCL, and we've got a lot to talk about this week. Let's start off with our news segment. First and foremost, not a lot of news, but a nice shout out to one of our very own FCL competitors, John Knight. Went into the Pride exhibition match and represented for the FCL competitors along with a couple of other greats from the Schmoedown. Make sure you check out that match. Congratulations for the spotlight, John, and well done. We appreciate seeing you do a little bit more, as we do with all of the FCL competitors. We're wishing success to all of you out there. And in that vein, we are going to talk about another FCL competitor, although not any longer. He's a star. He's in the stars, and he is facing off in that round one matchup of the singles tournament. It is Slick Nick Harley going up against Paul Oyama. So once again, some FCL representation, and I'll let the panel get into this one. Let's hear some thoughts on this matchup. How about you, Keith?
So yeah, finally Nick's singles debut was released yesterday at the time of recording against Oyama. We had broken this down a couple of times. We'd spoken about it, how it was going to be an extremely tough fight, which it was. Unfortunately, spoiler alert, Oyama gets the job done 16-14. Jen, I'm sure you're extremely happy there in the corner for your stablemate. But I think the one thing from the match that Nick can definitely take away is the round one was difficulty had gone through the roof. It was a real kind of, it was like a chess match almost with Oyama and Nick in that first round. They both hit sevens in their second, and then they both hit their twos, and Nick unfortunately stumbled on a 3 and a 5. So I'd say from Nick's point of view, he's probably disappointed a little bit that he didn't push Paul all the way to maybe a 3 or a 5. But I suppose, Jen, Paul alluded to it in his post-match interview that Nick didn't have a lot of tape to kind of go on to prepare. So from your point of view, how did you get Oyama battle ready for Slick Nick, as he's called now?
I mean, Paul's always ready to go no matter what. But yeah, he was coming into this match like he was a little reticent because Nick came through the FCL like just completely plowed through. And having played him myself, I know he's no slouch and everything. So Paul was taking it very seriously. But yeah, there just wasn't a lot of tape, unfortunately, because we're in that weird transition period from Twitch to YouTube where there's a bit of a delay, so you can't actually see some stuff. So he's depending on the Reddit threads and everything, which great job, guys. You help a lot. But yeah, like it was really cool to see Paul like we really need him to do well in this tournament. So it was a little scary seeing that tough matchup in the first round, but Paul luckily pulled it through like we all thought he would. So way to go, Paul. Team Swag. Drip, drip.
That is a true statement. Paul Oyama, a great competitor and nothing to be ashamed of if you lose to him. I thought Nick Harley performed incredibly well in this matchup. Although, Keith, I do have to caution you. You used the term spoiler alert when discussing him. I think you have to put 25 cents in Christian Harloff's swear jar now. Nick Harley, great performance up against his opponent, Paul Oyama, and obviously Swag picking up some points. Jen, I will say to you, if it's any comfort, if there's one person in the Schmoedown who you need to do well, if that's that you want to have backing with you when you need those points on the board, Paul Oyama is definitely on a short list of 2 or 3 people that can fill that role. Any thoughts on the match, Ryan?
I'm just going to say congrats to both competitors. It was a heck of a match. Can you tell I haven't seen this match yet? Maybe not. But anyway, thanks for having me. I'll see myself out.
And best of luck to Nick Harley moving forward in the MTS. Congratulations to Paul Oyama and Swag for their big points. Paul Oyama, Jen wants you to do well moving forward. Don't disappoint her. Don't let her down. We'll talk about some other FCL news that is happening a little bit more close to home in the FCL. We've got what I like to call the 2 Fs. The formation of the factions has begun, it looks like. We've got, first off, the European invasion. 3 individuals so far we've seen having a little bit of discussion. It's the Dynasty. It's the Mad One Cat. And, of course, Sonny of Star Wars fame. They're all together. This is a team to look at. Ryan, what do you think of these 3 coming together?
I got to say, I'm a bit to see an opening sequence with 3 people coming together and realizing that we have a huge problem. We need to rectify this. We need to fix the problem and destroy it 1,000 times over, if you don't mind me saying. Congrats. I'm happy about this. I can't wait. European invasion standing up for the good. You know, in the words of a famous pro wrestler, survey says 1 more for the good guys. So I dig it. Congrats, European invasion. I will buy all the tickets and I will support you to the end of my days because the other 2 factions got no chance in you know what. Another pro wrestling reference for you young kids out there.
Keith, it seems like everybody in the FCL, as we will continue to discuss in this news segment, is starting to pair off. The dance partners are getting together. What do you think about this particular pairing?
I think this clearly makes sense, you know, just from a geographical point of view straight away. Yeah. They all train together, so it's nice that what we kind of all presume has kind of come out into the fore, and let's see what other kind of factions come up, because obviously there's another one to talk about, and then we obviously have the Flouse, the Mouth, and the Muscle with Flouse, Furtado, and Knight coming together. So let's see what the collision course of all this ends up being.
Well, that is 2 terrible threesomes coming at people. You're going to want to look out if you're one of the competitors in this league. I don't know how familiar, Jen, you are with all of the FCL action. I know sometimes it gets busy. You can't watch every matchup. But do you have any thoughts on the European invasion of Cat the Mad, Sonny, and David Campbell?
No, I absolutely love like this little cutscene and everything because, yeah, it's in the digital era. We have luckily been able to kind of spread out the player factions and everything, and we're going like international, and it's so great to see people like starting to build off of that and form some kind of community because yeah, it really helps being on a faction when you're in somewhat similar time zones. Being on an East Coaster with West Coasters and Paul way out in Hawaii, things get a little tricky when you're trying to like come up with times. So yeah, I'm all for this faction. Go European invasion. Like I know I'm a strong American, but I always appreciate a good trip to Europe. So yeah.
And 3 very game competitors in Kat, Sonny, and David. Maybe some records that don't quite reflect the level of talent because we all agree some very, very strong movie trivia knowledge amongst these 3 here. I think they're going to do great things. And of course, study sessions, much easier to schedule when you don't have to be 3 or 6 or 12 or however many hours apart. Good luck to the European invasion. And in that same vein, let's continue on. It's happening once again. It's the Sinister Skim. The cheese has turned as the Flying Cow reveals the first member of the Sinister Syndicate. Sinister James Shimo is picking up the Flying Cow after his matchup, which I will not discuss the result of because, Keith, I'll leave that one for you. Any thoughts on our new evil cow? How about Ryan? What do you think?
Well, first of all, what's his name? James Shimo, Marvel called, and they want their Sinister Six tagline back. So you can't use that. That's wrong, beyond measure. Flying Cow, I mean, yeah, no. I don't care for this faction. I don't care. when you bring in Flying Cow as your first member of this new group of people that you want to put together, no. I mean, great competitor, but at the same time, it's like, no. Too much for me, too much coffee. Flying Cow uses way too much face paint, not nearly as much as the Stinger on AEW Dynamite. But no. No confidence. I have no confidence in this faction whatsoever. James, if you were going to put something sinister, evil, conniving, and sickening, disgusting, you're not doing it right, at least in my book. But hey, look, you go ahead and you do your thing. I'm just going to be over here with the European Invasion that's going to win all the belts, have all the records, and we're just going to celebrate. You guys can go off in your itty-bitty little corner of the 7-Eleven and have a Slurpee or something. Big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
Ryan Permison on point. You're saying no way home for the Sinister Syndicate. Now, I know they are sinister. They are bad guys. Jen Kempe, any perhaps nicer thoughts than Ryan had for the Sinister Syndicate, or are you in the same boat?
No, I totally disagree. How dare you, Ryan? We always need a heel faction, and I think it's perfect that we're starting out with the Sinister because, as we just said, Spider-Man is all the rage right now, so it kind of hit exactly at the right time to really build off of that vibe that everybody's feeling. I love the Flying Cow, and I think it would be great to have him kind of make a heel turn and get a little bit crazy up in here because it is more fun to be a heel. You get a little bit more backlash, but you get a lot more press. So any conversation's a good conversation. Go ahead for it. Yeah, I'm all for it.
Keith, two guys who both have some recent wins on their records coming together in the Sinister Syndicate. Now, we've got James Shimo, we've got the Flying Cow. What are your thoughts on this one?
I think I've had a lot of words to say about James Shimo and his bunch of cronies that we've only started to see come together now. And, James Shimo is actually a trailblazer, if you think about it, because we consider the movie trivia a sport. And all sports have sponsorship deals. So like UFC has Modelo beer brewed for those with a fighting spirit. The Cricket Indian Premier League has the Max Mobile Sear Tire strategic timeout. And now, thanks to James Shimo and this scene this week, we now have the FCL storyline scene of the week powered by StreamYard because James Shimo was too tight to spend the $20 on a upgraded StreamYard account. So seriously, Shimo, you want to bring in all these crew, you're not even going to upgrade your own system. There's going to be no drinks. There's going to be no food. And this is just a recipe for disaster. And the sooner this gets blown out of the water and we move on, excuse the pun, the better.
Well, when cows fly, it sounds like that's what's going to happen for these guys to have any kind of nice things to say. Mr. Shimo, I applaud you for going out there and telling it like it is, of course, telling people there is evil in the world, there is greed, and I'm going to take advantage of it. Now you've got the Flying Cow on your side. Folks, watch what you add to your coffee from now on. It might be curdled. It might be no good for you. I don't know what they're going to pull off, but I'm excited to see what's moving forward, not just with them, but with the entire triumvirate of factions we've already talked about. We've got Furtado, Knight, and Flaus. We've got the European Invasion, and now the Sinister Syndicate all starting to come together. That's going to shape a lot of the storylines moving forward in the FCL over the next few weeks, and a lot of these segments where I talk about all the news with you. But, of course, it's also about the matches, and for that, we turn it over to our very own Keith Kilduff to break it all down.
Thank you, Andrew. Let's get into FCL22. And much like Taylor Swift, FCL was feeling 22 this week as we had a Innergeekdom fight between Captain Mad and the Flying Cow, as well as a singles division match between Tom Chatalbash and Adam Gertler. Jen, if I could come to you, if you could get past the fantastic line that I've just come up with there. Obviously, you were a part of the Innergeekdom tournament last year. But since then, obviously, all the new categories have come in, all the kind of the subgenre categories of like DC has come, Batman and Superman. It almost feels like last year is like a completely different era of Innergeekdom.
Yeah, like honestly, I've only played the one Innergeekdom match, and it was basically because at the time, the faction Usual Suspects, we didn't have a designated Innergeekdom person. It was me and Janine that were both like interested in trying to like spread your wings a little bit and see how it goes. And I did a lot of studying and it was really tricky. But I think it was for the best because like for both the writers and the players, like I, as a former writer myself, you can only go through these movies so many times without starting to lose your mind a little bit. So it's nice to kind of have that room to wiggle around in. And it also at the same time kind of opened things up of making other people that haven't necessarily been in the Innergeekdom think, well, maybe this is going to be a kind of an equalizer, as we've seen for things like Transformers and Planet of the Apes. It might trip up some people that have been like lights out before. So it kind of was this major paradigm shift, and it's interesting to see so many new faces going after the Innergeekdom titles. So yeah.
So listen, we're moving into round number 1, Cat the Mad, Flying Cow. A surprise choice in Innergeekdom, I think we can all agree on, but definitely not a surprise in terms of what the points he put up. First round ending 7-5. They both go 4-4 of the first questions. Robert De Niro is Murray Franklin. Shia LaBeouf is in 3 Transformers movie. Catherine Hahn is the voice of Doc Ock, and Bill Nighy is in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Cat misses the next 2 in Middle-earth and comic book movies, not knowing Bernard Hill and not knowing Paul Bettany in Priest. They both get the swashbuckling adventure question correct of the Flying Dutchman is Davy Jones's ship, and then they both miss the final question. Unfortunately, this alien predator, what is the real first name of the survivor they call Newt? But Andrew, the tale of the tape feels like specific actors letting Cat down in this round, and it's kind of been a theme almost through all the FCL-IG matches this season.
Well, I mean, it can sometimes be difficult to pull a name, even from a movie that you know. And oftentimes when a specific actor is being asked for, even in round number 1, you'll be seeing somebody who's not necessarily a headliner, maybe not even bottom of the marquee. You're talking about a 4th build, a 6th build, something like that quite a lot of the time. I don't know if that's necessarily true in this matchup, but I think both players playing well, taking some time. As always, I think you know that I'm going to take a moment here to harp on that one thing that I always do. Whenever there's a missed point, whenever there's a missed question, and you have the option to do so, JTE rules, folks, are available for you. JTE, say it with me every time. Feel free to give yourself a few more seconds. And I understand, as we'll talk about as we get a little later in this matchup, because it was a point of discussion during the interviews, sometimes you just don't know a question. I can't disagree with that. I still urge you, please take advantage of that resource you have, just in case it'll bubble to the top of your mind, just in case you can get those points. Why the heck not? You're not hurting anybody. And for the viewers out there, you're not hurting the match either. It's just a little bit more dramatic for them. So go ahead. Take advantage. It's not selfish. Take those 30 seconds. And if you don't come up with it, just think about, what am I going to get for my groceries tomorrow? We only just spend 30 more seconds on that in a day, right?
Jen, here's an interesting one I'd like to get your view on. Could time zones potentially be an issue trying to kind of pull this kind of deep knowledge in terms of, I suppose, in Denmark, at the time when this is kicking off, the first one's kicking off at it's about 12:30 at night. So getting your mindset ready to kind of pull back all this kind of deep knowledge, and then maybe just trying to remember all that is kind of stopping the basic kind of knowledge.
Oh, I think that's definitely a factor. Like I've said before, people look at the Schmoedown and the FCL like as 2 different leagues, and I don't think it's necessarily a difference in difficulty, because you look at FCL and it's a pressure cooker. Every time you're out there, it is live, and you know that people are watching every move that you make, and it puts so much more stress on you. So for Cat to come in at that time of night, some people, they tend to hit their peak at a certain moment. Maybe they are a night person, who knows? But yeah, Cat the Mad, they unfortunately it seemed like once they got that first miss, kind of get into your own head at that moment. So yes, I absolutely believe that a repeat probably could have helped in that moment. But when it comes to actors like Bernard Hill, you don't really know him outside of Lord of the Rings, unfortunately. Whenever I see him in another movie, I go, that's Theoden. I don't go, that's Bernard Hill, it's Theoden. And in my personal opinion, that final question, that was the hardest question of the day for me. I do not believe that was a round 1 level question. I understand raising the difficulty, but I would argue that was actually the hardest one. And I think they could have switched the 2 different alien questions and put that last final 5-pointer into the round 1. I think it would have been a little bit more fair, but that's a personal question. It's always subjectivity, but that's personally my opinion.
Ryan, it's solid from the Flying Cow. He's unknown coming into Innergeekdom, but clearly showing well capable and showing this idea that we kind of talk about, this intent of knowledge.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, he can do one division, and then he comes into this one and he's taken off. So I mean, even though cows don't fly, and they never will. Yeah, good first round, some really deep quiet. I just saw Aliens for the first time ever last year, and even I couldn't be able to pull that. What's her real name? I always see her as Newt. I know they mentioned it in the movie, maybe once or twice. I think Ripley asked, what was your real name before you got, what was your real name before you started living under the floorboards of this compound? Oh, my name was Rebecca. What? That is a deep cut. Like, that is a deep cut. But other than that, good questions. But I will say the Innergeekdom division has really grown in the last several months of deepening these questions, changing up the categories, flipping everything on its head, and putting these competitors, really keeping them on their toes more so than they have been in the last 3 years. So my hats off to the question writers, but at the same time, those are some deep cuts, brother. So yeah.
Let's move into round 2. Flying Cow up 7-5, decides to go first, gets Spinner's Choice, takes Star Trek, goes 6 of 8, gives up a steal on the third question. This how long was George Kirk the captain for in Star Trek 2009? Goes down to multiple choice, says 17 minutes. Cat gets the steal, the answer being 12. It's on Cat spin. First spin, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and clears the board 8 for 8. Chris Evans in the 2007 movie Out of the Shadows was released in 2016. Patrick Stewart voiced Yodel in TMNT, and then in TMNT 3, what object did April get at the flea market to send the turtles back in time? This Japanese scepter, I believe. 14-13, and it's just changed completely, Andrew. Holding throw and flipping the match with a big 9-6 swing in round 2.
I mean, it's a good round for the Flying Cow. He continues to fly straight, going forward towards the end of this matchup, getting a lot of points up there. And you never do anything but smile. I can't imagine when you spin Spinner's Choice and you're already up when the round starts. What a way to get going. Does not let any real issues come in there. Yeah, there's a steal in this round, but nothing too egregious. You took your guess. You went to multiple choice. I thought that was smart. When you hear the answers, and I believe they were 10, 15, 12, and 17, you have to think it's one of the off numbers. So really, you're just coin flipping for your point there, unless the question writers are being real tricky with you. So I think played exactly correctly. Nothing wrong from either of them in this second round. And really just, I would say, textbook play. Maybe there's a moment or two where people could have taken another second, but I'm not going to stick on that here because I do really genuinely just think this is about as straightforward as it gets. Both players playing very well, Flying Cow getting a little bit lucky with the spin.
Jen, it's an aggressive move by the Flying Cow, looking to go first, looking to build this idea of scoreboard pressure. It's a new term that I've come up with now in the last couple of days. But the thing I want to ask you is, I am of the opinion that in these kind of specific genre leagues of IG and Star Wars, you go first because you know the full breadth of the source material, or is it still a situational piece in the moment for yourself?
Yeah, personally for me, whenever I'm playing, if I have the option to choose, I tend to go second because I like to have that knowledge of how aggressive is the other player going to be, kind of thing, and like how much points do I need to like kind of stay in it, even though at the same time, you never want to go down to multiple if at all possible. But I think Flying Cow made the right decision of going down to multiple on that numbers question, just because I know for me, numbers are always like, oh, it could be this or this. I'm not ever like 100% sure. And it was just one of those unfortunate things of it's a very specific quote line that maybe you don't pay attention to. You kind of know the knowledge of what happened in that scene, but you don't know the very specific thing. But for me, anytime Bruce Greenwood talks, I listen. So I do know that one. But yeah, like, so that was a major steal for Cat and gave them the upper edge coming into the round 3. So, and who knew Cat knew Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that well? Like, seemed a little iffy on like, maybe I guess we'll give it a try. And then like just completely blaze through it. So you never know.
Ryan, as I have learned from you down through the weeks, 90s kids know Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, don't they?
Bossa Nova? Yes, we do. We proudly celebrate that trilogy. Yes, you heard me right. I said trilogy. You can say 1 and 2 are the GOATs and leave 3 out to pasture, whatever. To me, it's a trilogy, brother. So with that being said, I'm happy that the question writers have taken it upon themselves to say, look, we've asked questions from the original movie time and time again. We've asked a few questions from Ninja Part 2, The Secret of the Ooze, which, by the way, solid film. Go watch it. It just celebrated its 30th anniversary. What's up? So... And then Turtles 3 gets nothing from. They barely get any mention at all from the question writer. And the question writer was like, well, we've asked so many questions from these first 2 films. I think there's a third one in this series. And there, duh, look up your history, brother. It's in the 90s category. Look it up. It's real. It's a fact, Jack. So yeah, I'm happy. This was a great round too. And when Kat was taking on those questions at TMNT, I'm thinking to myself, you know this. Come on now. Come on. You don't know it. Just check the multiple choice. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. Just do it. I was having a blast, man. I'm glad the question writers are using questions from Part 3 because there are some good questions that you can pull from Ninja Turtles 3, Turtles in Time, for some of you who may think there's a subtitle, even though there really isn't. But there you go.
let's wrap this up. Let's wrap up round 3. Flying Cows 2, Batman. What Batman film features Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy, Batman and Robin? Cats 2, Marvel. What actor plays Captain Stacy in Amazing Spider-Man? If they were watching last week, they would have known from Chris Adams' round. Dennis Leary. Flying Cows 3, Time Travel. Who plays Deegan, the leader of the smokers in Waterworld? Dennis Hopper. Cats 3, Middle Earth. In Fellowship, who says this is no mine, it is a tomb about the mines of Moria? Boromir. And then Cows 5, Mixed Bag. What is the name of Ellen Ripley's pet cat in Alien? Jones/Jonesy. All on Cat. On the 5, In the Mask. Who plays Dr. Arthur Newman? Can't wager a guess. Ben Stein being the answer. And your winner, 23-19. Andrew, Dana White, UFC president, has a saying, if you don't know, now you know. And Kat certainly knows who Dr. Arthur Newman is now.
I would imagine it is a fact that is not going to go away for at the least a little while for Kat. They did a great job with this round, and I was sitting there hoping that Kat might be able to pull it out, because no matter who you're cheering for in a match, when you get to the end of a tightly fought match like this, when it's as close as it is, you kind of have that little bit inside you that just wants everybody to get another question, to keep that action going, to build it to something even bigger. Did not happen this time, as that is a very, very low build character in that film. I remember that one, but to be fair, I was about 12 when The Mask came out, so pretty much watched that movie 100 times in a row. You know, I'm going to remember that when most people aren't. I think it's a good 5-point question and good performance from both of them in here. But in the end, the Flying Cow, with consistent play all the way through, takes it down. I would be remiss if I didn't say it at least one time. Like I said before, you may not know it. You may know that you don't know it. Doesn't hurt anything to make me wait 30 seconds in Twitch to see you say something else. Use those JTEs. Give yourself the chance. But I'm not harping. Kat, great match. Flying Cow, congratulations, and great things looking to be coming your way, as he also joins the Sinister Syndicate a little bit later in the show. Should be a lot coming for the Flying Cow shortly, and what a match to get it started.
Jen, Flying Cow did what he had to do, had some obscure questions asked, and held firm in the pocket.
Yeah, this round 3 was great, honestly. I believe it was really equal in terms of difficulty, and they both did really well. And yeah, that's just one of those things where The Mask is one of those films that you kind of forget is in the Innergeekdom category, so you tend to overlook it a little bit. I am also a big Jim Carrey 90s fan, so I absolutely was like, come on, you can do this kind of thing. But yeah, if you hadn't seen it in a long time, I think it's maybe a 2 to 5 minute scene that's very easy to forget. So understandable. And I agree that maybe you can always use your JTEs. In my opinion, it's always good to throw something out there for an answer. I was a little frustrated that Kat didn't really do that on, I think, all of their misses, unfortunately. But that's just me, because we've seen people like Josh McCouga and Stacey Howard throw something out there randomly and it hits sometimes. So you never know. So I always want to kind of give something in the realm of possibility. But I understand, sometimes you just completely blank and it's I don't want to waste people's time. But it was a great match. It was really tight until the end. It was a little back and forth. So, but you can't overlook the perfect round in round 2 for Kat. So good job on both.
Ryan, 42 points in the match, high scoring, but not the greatest start for the European invasion, unfortunately.
Oh, you had to go there, didn't you? You had to go there. But I'll say this. Look, this was, to echo what everyone here has said in this arena today, great match by both competitors, really put up some good points, great questions by the question writers. Round 3 was crazy. And by the way, so Doctor, you're saying that everybody wears a mask? That's right, Wendy. We all wear masks, metaphorically speaking. Dude, once again, the 90s come into play, son. 5 pointers. I would have been able to pull that without question. I don't need no JTE for that. I would have been able to pull Ben Stein out of no man's land. I could pull it. Kat, I felt so bad for you because I wish I could have telepathically sent that answer to your brain, because I'm yelling it. I'm saying, it's Ben Stein, it's Ben Stein, it's Ben Stein. My late father went to school with this guy. So I'm telling you, I know this. 90s kids know their stuff. And I could have helped you. I could have been there for you. But since I wasn't physically in the arena, I will say this. Great match by both. In the words of Scott Mance, that was a great match. It really was. So I look forward to seeing what both these competitors do within the Innergeekdom division moving forward. Yes, European Invasion didn't get up to a good start. But listen, when I see you guys here in America, the first round of drinks is on me, okay? So don't worry. I got you. We're all friends here. We're all family. So we're going to help you guys. If you come over here to the States, don't worry, Kat. It's not a problem. But this was a great match, Keith. I do agree.
Let's move on to the second match of the evening involving 0-2 Tom Chatalbash and Adam Gertler coming in to make his singles debut in the FCL. A great promo, it has to be said, from both. Tom really channeling his inner Ted Lasso, if you will. And Adam, it looks like he's going mad every second, and you feel like he's just going to explode at some stage. Eats the little potato that has been christened as Tom. But Jen, what did you expect going into this? Obviously, someone making their singles debut versus someone who hasn't gotten a W so far this year.
Oh, I absolutely love both of these promos. Like, as a pretty much a loser myself, I appreciate where Tom's coming from of the record doesn't reflect your play. And I absolutely loved his line of, are you scared of becoming a bigger loser than you are? Well, that's just hurtful. Because I was like, that's how I felt pretty much every time I'm going into a match. But Adam, like, he embodied that chaotic good, I hopefully, energy in his little weird voodoo potato situation there. But he's not the culinary kraken for nothing. Like, it was really fun seeing these two match up. And I was glad to see Adam in singles because he didn't go so well in Star Wars, but I think he has a lot of knowledge across the board. So I'm glad that he's here and hopefully will continue in the singles division. So
moving into round one, it ends 7-5 to Adam. Tom is down a good bit on his own personal league average of 7.2 this season. They both go 2 for 2 in the first one. They know Wonder Woman takes place in World War I. Sean Astin is the brother in 51st Dates. Then Tom misses the third question, famous actor, actresses, the actor in The Birdcage, Absolute Power, and A Bridge Too Far, Gene Hackman. He says Nathan Lane. Then they both miss the Oscars question, just Johnny Depp one of what was the film that gave him his first Best Actor nomination. Tom says Ed Wood, and Adam says What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Pirates of the Caribbean, Cursed Black Pearl actually being the correct answer here. They both go 3 for 3. Young adult YA adaptations comes in for the first time this season. The actress in The Fault of the Star, Shailene Woodley. 90s Helena Bonham Carter in Fight Club, and then the director of Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines. We round out the round in directors who directed Meatballs, Legal Eagles, and Twins. Ivan Reitman being the correct answer. Tom, unfortunately, missing that, saying Harold Ramis. But Ryan, Adam, for his first singles match, coming out strong. And again, you don't quite know if he's locked in or if he's just about to go crazy.
This goes all the way back to his career in the MTS with the greatest player of all time, Mike Kalinowski. This guy didn't say a word on the desk.
One of the greatest. One of the greatest.
Stop it. Don't make me take you out Don't make me take you out back, and we'll have some words, Fight Club boy. But anyway, listen. This guy hardly said a word in his MTS career. He had that silent type thing going on, and then you get to see him actually talk and actually, wow, this guy can actually talk. He can communicate. This is great. And then you find out that he's a culinary kraken. I don't know how that happened. But he likes to cook. All right, the Food Network needs somebody that can call him up. He knows a thing or two because he cooks a thing or two. So my hat's off to him for that. But no, this is a good start off, and both competitors put up some good points. Yeah, Chatlabash is struggling, but man, culinary kraken, I guess eating those potatoes with Tom's face all over it. Maybe give him the right kind of mojo. But I don't know. But good first round, good promos. Although Tom Chatalbash with the lens flare, too many lens flares, Tom. Too many lens flares. But Adam's promo was fine. There were no lens flares there, so my eyes were able to watch everything in perfect HD graphics. But yeah, good first round. Good questions too.
Andrew, the questions seem to be turned up a notch in this round one, or maybe am I just showing my year of my vintage?
I mean, I think the questions in general have been certainly adjusting in difficulty over the past few weeks of FCL. Early on in the FCL, as we were reporting, and I know we were hearing a lot of the fans, a lot of the people who are watching saying maybe there were a few questions slipping in that were a bit too easy. Maybe the balance wasn't quite there. Certainly something is being done about that. And I've written a question or two before, back when I worked in the movie Trivia Face-Off. Jen, I know you've written a few questions before, and we can say with absolute glee and our fingers steepled like we're James Shimo, we always do try to trip you up with at least one in every round. I appreciate seeing that from the question writers. You got to watch out for that one, and that's going to become another landmine for people to watch in that first round. Perhaps that's what hits Chatlabash. As you said something, Keith, that really surprises me, 2.2 points below his average for the first round. Not the greatest showing for Chatlabash, but he stays cool and collected. And after a couple great promos and a fairly decent first round, I'm excited to see what's happening so far.
the wheel comes up in round 2, and I think it's fair to say it's quite a balanced wheel all in all. Jodie Foster, Mel Brooks, Robin Williams, M. Night Shyamalan, Jim Carrey, movie release dates 90s, action adventure, one-word titles and franchises. Tom is deferred to on his first spin, gets movie release dates, doesn't want anything to do with it, and gets Mel Brooks on his second, and goes 8 for 8 for the first time this season. He had been going at 6s in round 2 so far. He gets Rick Moranis in Spaceballs, he gets Blazing Saddles, he gets Dracula Dead and Loving It, and he gets the 2005 computer animated sci-fi movie that Mel Brooks voiced in, being Robots. On the other side, Adam Gertler comes up, spins first, gets Robin Williams, decides to take it, and only goes, and only goes 4 of 8, unfortunately. Knows that he was nominated for an Oscar as John Keating in Dead Poets Society. He gets Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting. And then, unfortunately, the big call here is the second question, the 2009 film where Robin Williams plays Theodore Roosevelt. Adam only says Night at the Museum. Brad asked PLD for clarification. PLD says incorrect. And Tom just tags on the end bit of Battle at the Smithsonian for a big 2-point steal. We round out Adam's round, the Jack's mother in 1996. Jack goes down to multiple choice. They both miss. One says Sally Field. The other says Helen Hunt. Diane Lane being the correct answer. But Jen, I suppose if I can come to you for a second, it's 15-11. And in your career this season alone, you were up against Felix Moret, but you were down against Horowitz going into round 2. What's the contrasting feelings, honestly?
I mean, for me, it's always just answer the questions you know. It's just try to do your best, particularly in round 2. I hate going to multiple choice, and it like kills me every time I have to do it. But yeah, you always just kind of play yourself and be aware of what's going on with the other person, but really just lock in on your answers. And that's absolutely what Chatlabash did. Like in the first round, even when he did miss, he was always like really close. Like all of his wrong answers are very good wrong answers, which I know that's not a thing, but it is to me. So he's very close in all of his answers. So he was clearly locked in. He was just a little bit off the mark in round 1. And then round 2, he just came in and smashed it in Mel Brooks, which I'm a huge fan of. So I was really happy once he rolled off of movie release dates and ended up with Mel Brooks. I was really happy to see that. But yeah, the Robin Williams category, in my opinion, was a little bit tougher. Like those, whenever you have those kind of questions where you're just asking about one particular film in a series, it's tempting for the player to be like, oh, obviously it's that, because I know from that franchise it's that person. But you have to kind of stop yourself for a second, think about it. And I think Adam just kind of jumped the gun, unfortunately, with that one. I know there's arguments of like, oh, were Brad and PLD kind of leading the answer for Tom to get the steal? And no, I think Tom absolutely knew. It's like, oh, obviously it's from this franchise. You just need to figure out which one it is. So that's totally fine. It's not challengeable at all. And the last question is just, who wants to talk about Jack? Like, really, like that is a movie that nobody really wants to watch anymore. It's not something that really comes to mind. For me, I immediately, when we were going through it, I was like, well, I know it's like Robin Williams and everybody remembers J-Lo because for whatever reason, Francis Ford Coppola was like, let's put J-Lo in here as the teacher. But yeah, you eventually get there, and these were all really good options for multiple choice because they're all big in the 90s and everything, and they unfortunately just kind of picked the wrong ones. So yeah, it was a really exciting round 2 to make that swing for Tom to kind of come back in it.
Yeah, Ryan, that's exactly the point I was just going to say to you. This swing of Chatlabash going perfect on his own throw for the first time this season, it has to give him confidence moving forward as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely it does. And yeah, and I do agree that Robin Williams, as much as I love Robin Williams, we all do. Anyone who doesn't is fooling himself. That's a bit of a tough category. By the way, the Jack question, once again, I could have helped you. I've seen that movie. I know who plays everybody. I could have helped. But unfortunately, I was on in the arena that day. Brad, by the way, Brad, where's the belt? Where's the belt, Brad? Where's my call? Where's my email?
That's your one now. That's your one. That's your one.
That's my phone call. But I'm just saying, Brad, I'm here for the FCL, buddy. Just give me a call and I'll be there. But anyway, yeah, good round 2, good questions, good for Chatlabash, and yada, yada, yada. That is it. Let's move on to round 3.
Well, hold on. I want to ask Mr. Elk something now, if that's okay, Mr. Parmesan.
No, it's not.
Then we'll move
go
on.
ahead. I'll allow it.
Thank you. So Andrew Gertler's bled a couple of times here, and it could have ended up a lot worse for him, but like it's a massive momentum swing with a 10-4 round 2 in favor of Chatlabash.
Seems like potentially a loss of focus happening for Gertler here, not taking it as seriously. Jen said something that I like. She said she saw maybe an underlying focus in Chatlabash. Maybe that's what's not there for Gertler in this particular matchup. I know he's having a lot of fun, but when you take out somebody's starchy sibling, they're going to come for revenge, and that's exactly what Chatlabash does as we come into round number 2. Incredibly impressive performance by Chatlabash. I will not gloss over that. Absolutely destroys the category, does amazing in round number 2. And what was looking like a match that he might be falling a little bit behind and he might not be able to completely close out is now going in an entirely different direction. I mean, I say they did a good thing this week with the FCL by saying double main event, because that's really what we're getting. We had a great opening matchup, and this one now after round 2 is in a nice tight position. Some good action to come from competitors that we know are capable of putting up those answers. So I thought, well played. And as a side note, if anyone is worried about Brad pausing a little bit on night at the museum, and if any competitors out there are saying, maybe I didn't know the subtitle when I answered it, just try putting a 2 or a 3 on the end of a sequel and see if they'll take it first. That's one piece of advice. But even more than that, I don't think it was anything intentional by Brad. If I were to harass anybody for anything that they said as an announcer in this match, it would be earlier when Brad said something about a soap poster on people's walls while they were still waiting for an answer about Fight Club. But, just things to think about.
Let's wrap this up. Round 3, it's all on Adam. His 2, Spielberg, he's won Best Director Oscar twice. Name 1 says Schindler's List. He could have also said Saving Private Ryan. In his 3 category, Matt and Ben, who is the writer and director of the 2017 movie Suburbicon, starring Damon, Julianne Moore, and Oscar Isaac. Hits a repeat, says Steven Soderbergh. Incorrect. Gertler's 5, it's all on him. Animated, what 95 film follows a wolf dog voiced by Kevin Bacon who leads a sled team on a delivery of anti-toxic medication to a children's hospital. There is a repeat used. Adam clearly, unfortunately, doesn't know the answer. Says Wolfie. The correct answer being Balto. And your winner, by way of winning, Tom Chatalbash gets rid of the O. And Ryan, the numbers give it and the numbers take it. But Balto?
Look. Let me tell you something about 90s kids. We may have watched a lot of movies in the 90s, but there are certain movies that may have slipped through our fingers. Balto, for me, was one of them. But even I, as a young man myself, would have been able to pull that. Because as soon as you said 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, as soon as you said wolf dog takes medicine, blah, 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 like these question writers are so descriptive, PLD. Are you writing essays for college? Like, easily I would have been able to pull that. But for Adam and for other competitors, this is not a slant against anybody. It's a blind spot. And that's okay. It's all right, because who remembers only 5 people, including myself. We remember Balto. We remember the poster. we remember this VHS tape in our county library. Okay? I remember that. Not everybody does, but I do. So I would have been able to pull his 5. And by the way, Suburbicon, George Clooney, I knew it almost immediately. I knew that. Steven Soderbergh is not a bad guess at all. But when I knew it was George Clooney. I was like, dude, just say it. Just say it. Couldn't pull it. Man, I feel so bad for Gertler. He's trying to put on a good show, which he does, promo-wise. And then when he competes, he puts some good points on the board. And I want him to bloody win. But in this case, he didn't. So it hurts me a bit. But Chatlabash, at least you're not 0-3. Could be worse. Could be worse. But congrats to both competitors, because once again, as my good friend Scott Mance once said, that was a great match. So I look forward to seeing what both these competitors do moving forward. But Tom, do me a favor. Cut down on the lens flare in your promos, okay? I have sensitive eyes for my age, okay? Sensitive eyes. Watch what you're doing. Just saying. Other than that, it was a great match. I had a good time watching this.
Jen, Tom's win kind of mirrors sort of the win that you had against Felix this year, in that it comes off the back of a big round 2. But I suppose the question is it ring rust for Adam, or is it just dealt a bad hand in round 3?
I think Adam really, he probably was thrown by that round 2. I think he was kicking himself mentally over that night in the museum question. And I think he was just blown away that there was a question asked about Jack to begin with. So he tends to get a little bit, he's a very funny person. So I think he was already running the scenario of what am I going to say in these post interviews about that. But yeah, he kind of got hit up with some questions that clearly were not in his wheelhouse, like Suburbicon. Not a great movie, honestly. So it's very forgettable. Like Ryan said, I did know it because that is the one thing, is maybe the reason that it's not so great is because it's George Clooney trying to be a writer-director. He does good work, but not necessarily that one. And unfortunately, yeah, Balto clearly not Adam is not a 90s animation person. I am a big 90s animation person. Justice for Balto. It's a good movie, okay? It's got Phil Collins in it. It's got Bob Hoskins in it. Bridget Fonda's in it. Friggin' Jim Cummings is a villain, which is always great to hear him do voice work. But I do agree that like it feels sometimes like PLD gets paid by the letter. There's some very descriptive plot-wise questions, particularly in this round 3. But yeah, it was like Adam played very well, but he just seemed to, every once in a while you hit that lineup of questions that's like, it never would get this on a good day. This is just not where my movie knowledge is. And Tom he got locked in, and even when he was a little bit off, he's clearly in the zone, and he didn't even have to come in this round 3. So that was really exciting to see. It was a TKO. And both of these matches, we had perfect rounds from one of the players in each, and big steals that one paid out, one didn't necessarily, but kept the game very interesting. So yeah, it was a really good matchup across the board.
Andrew, it's the first time this season Tom has been up by more than 2 going into round 3, and that was kind of like the deciding factor almost. But there's a poetic irony to this in a way that it's an animated question that gets him his win in terms of his competitor missing, because obviously against Vanessa he missed the Pixar question on the 5, and then he missed the Lion King question against Gallego on his 3 to kind of bounce it back to him. So listen, he's gotten rid of the O, he's got the 1 to his name, and he's moving forward.
Well, nothing feels better than that first big old W coming your way. I know that's got to be how he's feeling there. And it is ironic. It is a little bit different from his usual. But to be fair, the whole match is different than Chatalbash's usual. As you said yourself, usually 7.2 points averaged in round number 1. Instead, here he goes for only 5. Destroys round number 2, which I don't think he's yet had the opportunity to do. And that is the tale of the match, is round number 2, because that's really where the momentum shifts. That's where everything starts going Chatalbash's way. Gertler starts to fall off, and neither one really corrects course from there. You have the stats more than I do, Keith. Maybe it's a retroactive narrative, but in the matches I've seen Gertler in, even back in the olden days in the Schmoedown, I don't know that he's necessarily a closer, as you might put it down. Don't know if he's the strongest in round number 3. So you add up a little bit of rattling, a couple questions that maybe you're not so sure on, or just outright don't know, and you end up taking down the loss. But did some great work and a great attitude from both competitors out there. Chatlabash, a very deserved win coming out of this one. Adam Gertler, well performed through, just couldn't close it out today. But I mean, it's a great match. Really, really does match up with the other match on this card for an overall fantastic show from the FCL this week. And of course, I want to throw a big shout out. We've been picking on you for your questions, Paul, but you filled in for Steph today on the desk, and we know you did a great job there. Paul Denuzzo, I believe the L stands for Los Angeles County. I'm not sure. I've heard things. No, he did a great job on there, and it was a really fun matchup. Well performed by Chatlabash. I just, for the competitors out there, when you get behind, when you start to get beat up in that second round, it's so easy. I understand it. I empathize with it. I've been there and I've felt it. To lose yourself in the, oh no, I lost a steal. It can be 1 point and not even a big point, and that can break you down on the inside. Try not to let it do that. Just have some fun out there. Answer what you can. And remember, if you need a few more seconds, if you didn't hear the question correctly, you can always use a JTE.
So with that, we closed the book on FCL22 with wins for the Flying Cow and Tom Chatalbash. And unfortunately, at the time of recording, we do not know what is the card for FCL23. So Mr. Elk, please see us out.
Folks, it's been a pleasure to have you here with us to talk everything that's happening in the FCL. As Keith mentioned, unfortunately, nothing about next week is up there yet, but you can always check out our previous shows, which are available as well as podcasts. All the places you find podcasts, that's right, Spotify, Anchor, Apple Music. Check it on out, or give us a like on YouTube. Throw down a comment so Chris Barnes can tell us about it, and we can maybe respond to you here on the show. It's been a wonderful time with our guest, Jen Kempe, as well. I want to thank you, Jen, for joining us. And quickly on the way out, if you want to find me online, I am the Elk. I'm at Kelk Andrew, K-E-L-K Andrew on Twitter. Keith, where can you be found?
Twitter and Instagram at Keith Kilduff89, and check me out on the Opening Pair YouTube channel. And also, we are now officially, finally on podcast form as well after 13 months. Ryan Parmesan, 60 seconds on the clock. Do all the things.
Thank you, kind sir. I do appreciate it. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RyanRPM5. Check out my podcast called The Nerdcast, and also check out my other podcast called And I Quote. It's every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel known as Nerd Culture. That's right. You can follow us on all forms of social media simply at It's Nerd Culture. New videos are being posted each and every week where we have interviews, trivia games like Battle of the Nerds, Hello Innergeekdom Division, as well as a whole bunch of other fun stuff that we cater to your itty-bitty little nerdy heart because we want to entertain the millions and millions of viewers out there, and that's why we're here. So other than that, thanks for having me.
All right, and of course, our very special guest. We would be remiss if we didn't tell you to check out everything that Jen is doing. She's amazing. She's a part of S.W.A.G, so you can check out her Schmoedown matches. And if you're looking for her online, Jen, why don't you tell everybody where they can check you out?
Sure, you can find me, Jen Kempe, at JK Meme Queen on Twitter and Letterboxd, even though I never updated anymore. And I also was recently on, if you enjoyed Adam Gertler's Wacky Energy, I was just on an episode of Tournament Fights over on the Movie Hero channel last week. We did a big major tournament about recurring SNL characters deciding which is the best one. So if you like Adam's energy, go check that out because he was really on that day. Also, I appeared on a recent episode of Notorious by Chance with some of my favorite Schmoedown ladies, Sabrina Ramirez, Paige Fabretti, and the future single champion, Marisol McKee. Go check that episode out. It was a great time. We were talking about the top 5 best female performances of the 2010s.
Ooh, good topic. I want to check that one out, and I think I might check that out right after this. Although now we're going to head off and have ourselves a little 90s Jim Carrey movie marathon. Keith, you don't have to come along if you don't want to. It's okay.
No.
Folks, it's been a fantastic time having you as always. Check us out. Give us those likes. You can check out that podcast if you would like. And we will, of course, be back next week to break down everything else that's happening, all the news, all the matchups, and everything that you need to know about the First Class League will be coming to you here. And as a member of Proudly Bilingual Nation, this one's for our bovine viewers. Moo, 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 moo. Next week on This Week in the FCL.